What's up, friends? Welcome to the podcast, our first episode ever together here on the Drew Tranquil podcast. This is a lot like football. You do all these reps, all this preparation, all these practices, film watching, studying, all for what? The first game. And here we are, first episode, first game, and this is exciting. We're going to get things kicked off here with our thought for the day. And our thought for the day comes from Sam Acho's book, Let the World See You. Sam writes, "We all need people to inspire us, to push us, to encourage us, to be honest with us, to hold us accountable, to know who we are and remind us of who that is, to tell us the truth no matter what, to see us and make sure we let the world see us." And we're going to be talking with Sam here shortly. But before we do, I wanted to make you aware of something. And this might be the most exciting part of the episode for you. I don't know. But we're giving away a free Apple Watch. That's right. Free Apple Watch. All you have to do is subscribe. Let us know who you are, and we'll be announcing the winner during our 5th episode. All right, enough of me rambling. Let's waste no time here. Our guest today is a 9-time NFL vet, a 2-time graduate of the University of Texas, public speaker, host of multiple podcasts, an author, and we're going to talk about his book here, a father and a husband. Sam Acho and I are about to chop it up about how to be real in a world full of fakes. Let's roll this thing. Sam Acho,
Drew,
welcome to the podcast, brother.
I'm glad to be on, man. I'm glad to be on with you.
Hey, dude, the smile is as advertised. Big, beautiful, welcoming.
Absolutely, man. That's me.
Who's got the better smile, man? You or your brother?
I mean, everybody knows it's me. It's not even a conversation. Emmanuel usually mean mugs. Like anybody who knows Emmanuel, yes, he'll smile for the camera, but he's usually in it. He's usually living his life doing his thing. When I'm the guy who's like, "Hey, what's up?" Right, and that's why. Even in the book, right? Let the world see you. I talk about it in the book I just wrote, how a lot of times my smile gives me away, right? Like it's me. I love bringing people together, making sure everyone feels loved and welcomed. And I talk about my smile giving me away. And I love words, the English language, right? I can recite Shakespeare, some different, soliloquies in Shakespeare. I can recite the Canterbury Tales, Yeah, dude, I can recite the Canterbury Tales, and I can hit it for your listeners if you want me to. But
give us a little rendition. What is it? The Canterbury Tales?
Yeah, for sure. So this is the
give
prologue.
Quick, like 15.
For sure. Prologue of the Canterbury Tales in Middle English, right? So it's just Middle English. Y'all go look it up. Canterbury Tales. Wander April with his sure salta. The drought of March had passed through the rota. And bother every vein and switch the core of which fair to intended it is the floor. One's a fair sake with a sweat of breath and spirit hath in every halt and hath. The tender crop is on the younger sooner than the ram is hardly courser. I can go on and on, but that's a little piece of it.
Dude, I was reading your book. You wrote in there, you said football is like my passion or something I love, but my passion, but learning is my love. What? I mean, you're reciting that. You love to learn. What gave you that thirst? You mentioned your father. I don't know if he has any role in it. How'd you get your start? And like, I think that's so important, right? Being a lifelong learner. And it sounds like that's something you're applying to your life. How does that manifest itself today, Sam?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's easy for a lot of us to get caught up into what we do. A football player, or I am a mechanic, or I'm a teacher, or I'm a pastor. It's so easy for people in general to put their identities in their positions. The problem that occurs is what happens when that position is taken away? What happens when you're no longer playing at Texas or at Notre Dame? What happens when you're no longer in the NFL? What happens when your church dissolves? What happens? Oh, some people put their pride in their kids. Oh, my kids are the best. Or what happens when they go on and graduate? So many of us put our identities in the things that we do, But for me, I realize I'm more than just a football player. I love learning, not only in school, but I love learning about people. That's part of the reason why we started a couple podcasts, right? So I could listen and learn about people. I love learning about things. Like that's one thing I think that helped me in football was I could equate some things I learned off the football field and apply them to the football field, talking about loving.
I think that's a great pivot to even jump into the book, because I noted here, even in the title, right? Let the world see you, how to be real in a world full of fakes. That's so, like, that's an unbelievable idea, right? I think most people would probably say, like, yeah, I want to do me. I want to be me. But the reality is, when we step into the room for that interview, when we shake somebody's hand for the first time, most of the time, what's going on in our head, and you touch on this multiple times, it's not, I'm going to let them see me. I'm going to let them know me. It's, what do I need to do to impress them? We see it on social media. How can I grow my following? How can, instead of, it sounds good, right? I'm going to authentically be me, but in reality, not a lot of us practice it. Why do you think that is?
We're afraid. We're afraid. It's simple. A lot of us are afraid. And the next question logically would be, we're afraid of what? I think we're afraid that we won't be accepted for who we are, and afraid that we won't be loved for who we are. Each and every one of us has a deep desire to be loved. Ask any man out there, right? You could say, well, yeah, like, women want acceptance, and men, I just want to lead. No. Ask it. I was with a bunch of men last week speaking at a church, at a men's group at this church in Arizona. And I asked some of the men, what are your biggest fears? Some of the answers I got were, I fear I won't be adequate, won't be enough. Another was, I feel like I won't be accepted, right? We as human beings, we have a deep desire to be loved. And our fear is that if people saw the real me, not the blown up, big, shiny, beautiful version of me, if they saw the real me, I won't be loved. That's what I thought during those NFL Players Association negotiations with these owners. I figured if they saw the real me, they would just stomp on me. Oh, you're not, you can't hang with us. Even my teammates, you're not be able to hang with us if they saw the real me. But what I realized was that as I showed people the real me, vulnerable, right? Like the real me, I realized, yes, it was for me. I grew from that, but they grew as well. The team grew. We had our best season, right? The team, and even the title of the book, right? Let the world see you. The idea of being real in a world full of fakes. The idea of being you. That came from the 2018 season, my last year with the Chicago Bears. We had a brand new coach, and his motto for the year for the team was "Be you." Be you. And if you dig a little bit deeper into that idea of being you, it was be you, and we're going to accept you for you. I don't want you to front. I don't want you to act like, you have it all together. I want you to bring you to the table, because once you can do that, and oh, by the way, we're going to accept you for that. Once you can do that, you'll be able to flourish on the field, off the field, in the community, in whatever you do, but bring the full you to the table. But we are afraid that we won't be accepted and we won't be loved for who we are.
So I'm just interested, like, what was that moment when you're like, I'm done with this mask? We're wearing a lot of masks today, physically and literally. What was that moment? When was that moment? How did you know, like, I'm done with this, man?
For me, Drew, it was a journey more than an aha moment. So often I would get my affirmation from how I performed. My teammates or my coaches, the fans, someone on the outside would say, man, that was really good. Or on the other hand, they wouldn't say anything, which made me feel even worse. Oh man, that means they don't want to say how bad it was. Or they'd say that's really bad. So I would always try and wait after I did something to hear this affirmation from a coach, a teammate, a fan, a friend, a family member, a fan, a friend. And the moment for me, really the journey began when week 1, 2017, Chicago Bears, outside linebacker. We're playing the Atlanta Falcons, who just came off the Super Bowl. The Super Bowl loss to the Patriots. But they still had a top offense, like the offense. And I shined that game.
You balled out.
I shined. I mean, it was just, they couldn't run my way. It was teaching tape, clinic tape. Like you use that tape to go show people this is how you stop this style of offense. They couldn't do anything against me. I dominated. Man, when I say coaches, teammates, everyone was like, dude, you're the man. You're the man. You're the man. And I was like, yes, this is what I'd always wanted in some ways, right? That was year 7 in the NFL. You grind, you shine, you try and do your thing so you can be accepted. You are the man. You got it figured out. Well, week 2, first series of the game, we had this defense call. We're playing the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And we had this defense call, and they ran my way. And for whatever reason, I thought it was my fault. It wasn't. But they gained more yards than we would have liked. An 8-yard carry up the C gap. I'm on the edge. And I'm sitting there like, man, what did I do? And on the sideline, go to the sideline, Sam, what happened? What was that? And I was like, I don't know. I thought I messed up. And so the next time they ran the play, anybody who knows me knows I'm a guy who's like responsibly sound. I'm going to be in my gap, in my assignment. You can trust Sam's going to do what he needs to do.
He's going to do his job.
Well, this game, he's going to do his job. Well, this game, I said, let me get my shine. And so instead of doing my job and being in the gap I was supposed to be in, I abandoned my assignment to try and go make a play. And the running back, smart of him, went to where I wasn't and gashed our defense.
He bounced it.
Yep. If I'd have been in my responsibility doing my job, we would have been fine. But the thing is, I wanted the accolades. I didn't get the accolades thinking that the play before was my fault. So I tried to go be the hero. I proved more of a villain than a hero. I heard our team's chances. We lost the game in a very bad way. And that wasn't the only time, right? Since I did that, I tried to go make up for it. And I did something I usually wouldn't do. And so after the game, not only was it, Sam, what were you thinking? Sam, what were you doing? It was radio silence. Wasn't hearing anything from anybody. My coach would essentially look over me and talk to the other guys. My teammates were like, what is this guy thinking? Radio silence. The affirmation was all of a sudden gone. And that persisted for about 3-4 weeks. Nobody was really messing with me anymore. I went from the guy to the nobody. And I'm sitting there like, what the heck? How? What? No, I can do it. I barely played the next 2 games. Barely played. Maybe I had 3 snaps out of a 60, 70 play game. And I got to a point, honestly, I haven't told a ton of people this. I started like fasting, praying and fasting during that season. For those people who don't know what fasting is, some people may have heard of fasting. Okay, let me try and like not eat a ton of food or whatever. But in a spiritual sense, fasting means denying your flesh and replacing it with time with God, right? Okay, maybe it's prayer. Maybe it's time reading the word of God. Pretty much saying, God, you are more important than my body, whether it's food, whether it's social media, whether it's TV. You can fast from a myriad of things. So I started doing that during that season because I said, okay, God, not only am I not playing well, but even emotionally and spiritually, I felt like I was just empty, like running on E. So anyways, started fasting. And as I started praying and fasting, I felt like I was like, in a lot of ways, like hearing from the Lord being like, dude, I love you regardless of how you play. And I am for you regardless of what anyone else says. I love you. I'm with you. I'm for you. And so instead of me trying to go to a game to get that affirmation or go to a coach or to a teammate, I started in a lot of ways like hearing it from God, not like a big like, Sam, you're the best ever, but like this feeling, this almost like this like whisper of like, you're enough. You are enough. Still give your best, but you're enough. Lecrae says it in one of his songs. He says, if you live for their acceptance, you'll die from their rejection. I stopped living for people's acceptance. And I replaced it with God's acceptance, reading the word of God, feeling that affirmation of, oh, wow, you are enough. And then little by little, coaches would notice, teammates would notice, the fans would notice, but it didn't even matter because instead of looking at coaches and fans and the film after games, I'd immediately go to prayer. Like, all right, God, what'd you think? What'd you think? And I would just feel this voice of like, that was amazing. And oh, by the way, it's getting better.
What does prayer look like for you? Do you is it just integrated throughout your day? Do you some people like to just sit in silence in the morning for 15, 30 minutes. Some people call it meditating. Some people, call it prayer. I'm talking with the Lord. I found in my life when I set that time aside, that's when I'm most at peace. That's when I'm most self-aware. That's when I'm uh, most in touch with my inherent value, with my purpose. How does prayer manifest itself in your life? Meditation. What do those practices look like?
Definitely, it's all of the above. It's spending quiet time, like not just talking. People think that prayer is this thing. Okay, God, help me play better, help me to get this job. No, prayer's a conversation. All it is a conversation with God, right? A conversation, and in conversation, as we all know, we study it in class. It's a two-way street. You talk and you listen. You talk and you listen. And so for me, prayer became not just this time of saying, okay, in Jesus' name, I want this and I want that, and I pray for this person, that person. I would just sit and just listen, sit in silence. And sometimes I'd read the word of God beforehand and just try and meditate on some of the things that Jesus was saying when he was walking this earth, some of the stuff in the Bible. Other times I'll just sit in silence. Sometimes I'll be in the shower and just, like, for me, like, I get not necessarily a lot of thoughts in the shower, but I feel like that's like my time, my space. I think NFL locker rooms in college got these showers with 50 guys, 80 guys in a locker room. You don't have any peace. Don't have any really quiet time. So for me, just being in the shower by myself and just having like a mini conversation with the Lord, walking before plays. I would pray in between plays at a certain time in the season. Prayer, just having conversations with God.
You talked a little bit when you were talking about how you got over that hurdle to realize that, hey, man, I'm going to be myself and I'm okay being myself. You talked about a lot of us get caught up in the achievement race. What is on my resume? What have I done as of late to earn some type of identity or to earn respect, maybe from my coworkers or my peers? You write in your book, you say, I think we often get caught up in the busyness of life. Society tells us that if we work hard enough, do well enough, try hard enough, or look pretty enough, then we will be enough. But there's a problem with that equation. We already are enough. You go on later towards the end of the book to say, if the enemy can't make you bad, he'll make you busy. I read a book, I guess it's been almost a year now. I don't know if you've heard of it, The Ruthless Elimination of Hurry by John Mark Comer. He's a pastor. And it's an incredible book. You should check that one out too. But in it, he talks about this hurry sickness. And we have this problem in America, Sam, don't we? This never slow down, never rest. What's the next thing I can do to earn this identity? I'm interested for you because on the outlook, right, you're doing a lot. You played in the NFL for 9 years. You wrote a book. I think most people in life would consider their life a success if they were able to write a book. I know I would. That's pretty cool. You've done all these things, 2 degrees. How have you been able to, I guess, manage such a workload, but also not do what you said, which is get caught up in the busyness of life? That's real hard. That's real hard nowadays.
Yeah, well, I'm learning, Drew, to be honest, because it's easy to name the things that we do and be like, man, I'm just everywhere and I'm running and I'm gunning and I'm doing. But if you actually break it down, sometimes like God gives you grace in certain seasons and things just happen. Things just happen. In football, I don't know how it is for you. I don't know how it is for you, but for me, after practices and after games, guys would be like, oh man, I'm so sore. My body hurts so much. I got to go take a couple Advils. And I'd be like, I'm kind of okay. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. And I played like 80 snaps a game, all on the 100 snaps a game. And like, so sometimes, and for whatever reason, especially early on in my career, it was like, I feel like this is pretty easy, right? God gives us certain grace, but there are other times where we try and just go after it. I want this, I want that. This book didn't come out of this place where it's like, I got to write this book. This book came out of a place of pain. This book came out of a place of confusion, a place of feeling a lot of rejection and doubt and fear, and God freeing me from that. And this book is my journey that I want to share with the world to say, hey, you can be free too. You can be free too, because I know what it's like to try and look the part. I know what it's like to try and say the right things. I know what it's like for people to say I'm a certain height or weight and be like, okay, how's that going to sound? I know what it's like to talk with a general manager and be like, oh man, he likes. I know what it's like to play the game, to put on the masks. I literally was the best at that. I want to tell you, I was the best at anything. I was the best at that. But then I learned what it was like to be free. Like to be free from all of it. And bro, when I tell you there's no better feeling, there is no better feeling to be affirmed by God. Because that's the thing. Okay, you say all these things you did. Yes, I played football, right? As I was finishing playing, no job, no nothing, I was writing. God gave me this book. This last season, I wasn't on an NFL team this last season. Right. Well, the book comes out this last season, so I have time to go and promote it, to talk about it, to be on podcasts. Right. I love speaking, so I got a chance to speak during off seasons. I love talking, so I started a podcast a couple years ago. I'm still not signed right now, so I decided to start another podcast because I have free time. I have a lot of free time. So some people have the benefit of working a ton and being on a team and making a ton of money, which is all great and good. Right now, I have the benefit of time.
Hey, if you want to listen to today's full show, you can do that by going to Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you do podcasts. Thanks so much for listening. That's a wrap.